Today on an all-new Dr. Phil, from van life to vanished.
Human remains were discovered, consistent with the description of Gabby Petito.
Inside the disappearance and death of Gabby Petito.
I've gotten information that they spotted Gabby's remains in a grove of trees. So she wasn't buried.
Her fiance's strange behavior.
He came home in her car without her, and nobody's watching him.
The new crime scene.
He shouldn't have been able to leave that house.
How did Brian Laundrie get out of that home and nobody saw a thing?
The videos that might hold clues.
You may notice him wringing his hands and rocking.
This is called the fig leaf. He hasn't done this up to this point.
His behavior is self-centered, and it's designed exclusively to protect him.
She's been called the missing van life vlogger. But today, Gabby Petito is no longer missing. Authorities say they found the body of a young woman who appears to be Gabby in the Wyoming wilderness. In July, Gabby set off to document a cross-country adventure with her fiancé, Brian Laundrie. But after weeks on the road, Brian showed up back home in Gabby's van, but without Gabby. He reportedly hired a lawyer and refused to speak to police about her whereabouts. Today, Gabby has been found, but her fiancé, Brian, is now missing. His parents called the police to their Florida home to report he had not been seen or heard from since September 14th, when he left with a backpack to a nearby nature reserve. But Gabby's family claims he's not missing. They say he's hiding.
Police in Northport, Florida say they are saddened and heartbroken to learn Petito was found dead. Authorities revealed Sunday afternoon that they believe they have found remains of the Blue Point, Long Island native in Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. The cause of death has not been determined.
22-year-old Gabrielle Petito was reported missing over the weekend. Her last location was believed to have been in Wyoming.
I'd like to report a domestic dispute. I'm right on the corner of Main Street by Moonflower. We drove by and the gentleman was slapping the girl.
He was slapping her?
Yes, and they drove off. The white van, Florida license plate.
Okay, you said it's a white van?
White Ford Transit.
New body cam video was released today showing the missing Long Island native's encounter with police a few weeks before she vanished.
Well, I'm choosing not to cite you today, so you are not going to be charged with it.
Police concluding it was not a domestic assault, but a mental health crisis.
On August 25th, Gabby called her mom to say they were in Wyoming. To the shock of her parents, Gabby's fiancé returned home to Northport, Florida. Gabby is not with him.
Did he harm Gabby? Because if he did, then he stole her car and drove it across state lines.
Gabby's father, Joe, is fuming, learning that Laundrie has never uttered a word to Gabby's family about her whereabouts.
Laundrie is reportedly not cooperating with authorities and has hired a lawyer.
This just in, the FBI saying tonight they do not know the whereabouts of Brian Laundrie.
Laundrie hasn't been seen in days. His family told police he left on Tuesday and on Friday reported him missing. That's when police and the FBI were seen searching the Laundrie family home as about 100 people were gathered outside.
Where is Gabby?
By air and by land, police conducted a massive search for Laundrie.
Four-wheelers, canines, drones, and more than 50 people from multiple different law enforcement agencies searching 25,000 acres for Brian Laundrie. He left with a backpack, telling his parents he was going to the park.
New developments in the disappearance of Gabby Petito. The FBI is now searching the Florida home of her fiancé, Brian Laundrie.
Northport, Florida police and the FBI spent much of Monday morning searching and removing evidence from the home of Brian Laundrie.
Police, search warrant.
Laundrie's family told authorities they haven't seen him since September 14th. The spokesperson for the police department told CBS News he is confident they will find him.
We sat down with Gabby's father, Joe Petito, for his last and only in-depth interview before the tragic discovery of a young woman was made.
Gabby Petito never goes outside.
Do you have a theory about where she is?
I have a gut feeling and I have a thought in my head. The gut feeling's my fear, and I'm using the thought in my head as my focus. It's too long to not have anyone speak to her.
He leaves and drives home without her. What do you say to yourself about that?
I got a lot of questions. What happened with the van? Did you clean it? Did your parents help you clean it? Did they help cover up a crime? I got a lot of questions. Until I get my daughter back, I don't give a damn about the questions. I got to get my baby girl back.
Would you expected him to say, I'm leaving and coming home without your daughter?
Gabby's 5'3", maybe 110 pounds. You think it's okay to leave a young 22-year-old person in the middle of nowhere? Whatever the problem is, or whatever the scenario is, you know, I teach my son and my youngest son and Gabby to stand up for your mistakes. All right, if you do something wrong, you apologize and you take what's coming, because that's what decent people do.
What was your reaction when you heard he was refusing to speak to the police?
I screamed. My wife couldn't even console me. Like, I thought the worst. That's my baby. When was the last time you saw my daughter? Tell me that, because that would be our starting point. Instead, he gave me the number to his attorney. That's not like someone who loves you. If you love this person and she's your fiance, then you should turn around and, I don't know, lead the darn charge. But he's sitting there behind his mom like he's 4 years old. If she's hurt or worse, I hope they get what's coming. And that includes his folks. Because I'll tell you, right now they are just as complicit in my book.
Do you believe Brian has hurt your daughter?
Yeah. In my gut, I believe something bad happened.
Well, I have spoken with Gabby's father, Joe, since his daughter was found. Obviously, he's heartbroken. He and I have spoken professionally. We've also spoken just dad to dad. He says he really wants to focus on celebrating Gabby's life, not mourning her loss. And he wants everyone to know that he is so touched and moved by the outpouring of people from all over the world who came forward to support the search for Gabby. And he wants me to thank them as he waits to bring his daughter home. And today, as Gabby's family waits for answers about what happened to their beloved daughter, we're going to be analyzing the voices, the body language, looking for any hidden clues in videos of her final weeks, final days alive. I'm joined first by my good friend, Nancy Grace, host of Crime Stories with Nancy Grace on Fox Nation. She has been reporting on this story and has the latest news. Nancy, it's so good to see you again.
Dr. Phil, I only wish I could be with you in person, but I've been completely consumed covering this story. The very latest is this. You know, we heard that Brian Laundrie went out hiking in the Carlton Reserve. That's near Sarasota. Long story short, I've been in that area, and this is the rainy season. Let's just start with this, Dr. Phil. Typically, there is a lot of swamp, a lot of water, a lot of creeks in that Carlton Reserve. But in the rainy season, about 90% of the trails are covered in water. You want to tell me that he went out there hiking, and when he did not come home on day one, which was Tuesday, his parents weren't concerned? I got another question to throw to you. He's driving a Mustang. There is a ring of press around the Laundrie home. How did Brian Laundrie get out of that home in a Mustang and drive to Carlton Reserve? And nobody saw a thing. The search for him in Carlton Reserve has been called off. And in the last hours, FBI has sworn the Laundrie home. One of the FBI's said, get back, this is a crime scene. The parents were bundled out into a waiting, fed van, and about 15 FBI swarmed the home, bringing out evidence. Got another curveball, Dr. Phil, before I lose my thought. Has anybody seen him since September 1? Has he even been in the home? Because the sister went on national TV and said she hasn't been allowed to talk to him. Has the parents protected him from the police? They haven't talked to him. Has anybody actually seen him? Or has he been on the run after whatever happened with Gabby since September 1?
It boggles my mind that knowing that she's missing, knowing that Nicole Schmidt reported her missing, and he comes home supposedly in her van, not his van, her van, that they're not watching that house. And if he was there, he's able to just walk out the door and disappear. The prime suspect in a missing person, the individual that last saw her, as far as anybody knows, and just walks off and nobody's paying any attention to it. I know that's a small police department down there, but come on. Somebody needs to be watching where this kid's going.
It's not just the Northport police who are doing a valiant job, and everybody's been complaining, why wasn't he already arrested? Yeah, sure, right. Why wasn't he already dragged in for questioning? That's a great question to look at later, but right now I want to focus on finding him. It's very difficult for me to believe he left that home in a Mustang, go to a reserve with nothing but a backpack, and his parents wait till Friday to call police. Now, one more thing. They had tracker dogs out there, Dr. Phil. They would have smelled his scent around that car. Remember in the Lacey Peterson case? One of the dogs followed the car all the way to San Francisco Bay, we were told. So they would have smelled his scent around where the Mustang had been parked. But we never heard anything about a hit. Was he ever even in the Mustang?
No,
I'd be willing to bet money, if I were a betting woman, which I'm not, that the parents have helped him abscond.
We got to take a quick break. Stay with us, Nancy. Coming up, Gabby's best friend claims Brian was a jealous and controlling boyfriend. We'll hear from her next. Plus, an FBI defense tactics expert instructor weighs in. Steve, do you think this was intentional, or do you think it was an accident?
I believe that this was intentional.
Why?
On behalf of the FBI personnel and our partners, I would like to extend sincere and heartfelt condolences to Gabby's family, Joe and Tara Petito, and Jim and Nicole Schmidt. As every parent can imagine, this is an incredibly difficult time for the family and friends. Our thoughts and prayers are with them. We ask that you all respect the privacy as they mourn the loss of their daughter.
Well, 22-year-old van life vlogger Gabby Petito was last seen on August 24th, and her body was discovered on Sunday afternoon at Bridger Teton National Forest. Now, after returning from their cross-country van trip without Gabby, her fiance and high school sweetheart, Brian Laundrie, refused to speak to both her family and the police. It does not mean he's guilty. We can't say that. We haven't talked to him. He hasn't been questioned. He hasn't been charged. So we need to say that. I'm back with Nancy Grace, who joins us virtually, as well as former law enforcement officer and FBI defense tactic instructor, Steve Cardian. Good to see you.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you.
Thank you for being here. Why are they not watching him, and what's going on right now?
Given the scope of the case, when I heard that he had absconded, I was very surprised that he wasn't being watched. He's not a criminal. He hasn't been charged with anything. He's exercised his constitutional right not to speak to law enforcement. So they didn't necessarily have an obligation, but they should have had an obligation to keep an eye on him, have eyes on him, because he shouldn't have been able to leave that house.
Nancy, it doesn't make sense that these parents wouldn't have enough conscience to pick up the phone and call her parents and say, we need to talk.
It wouldn't make sense if Gabby had still been alive and they knew it. It would not make sense if they were not trying to cover up something. Best case scenario, Dr. Phil, in my mind, best case scenario is that Brian Laundrie left her there and took off. Now, do I believe that's what happened? No, that is not what I believe happened. I think that the discovery of the body launched an entire scenario where now the home has been treated as a crime scene and they're trying to figure out where's Brian Laundrie. I believe he came home and divulged to his parents what happened to Gabby. And that is why they couldn't call her family. What were they going to say? Lie? What could they say? They couldn't say anything or it would hurt their son. That's my speculation about what happened. And another thing I found out, at first we heard rumors that she had been buried, which indicates to me she was killed. Now I've gotten information that drones were flying overhead and they spotted what they thought was Gabby's remains in a grove of trees. So she wasn't buried. That's the latest we're getting. She didn't fall off a cliff by accident. She didn't die of natural causes, we don't think, but she was under the cover of trees. Now, that weighs in because it helps us figure out what happened to Gabby. But that's why they didn't call the parents, because there was no good news.
Well, Steve, do you think this was intentional or do you think it was an accident?
We won't know until we find out what the autopsy reveals, but I believe that this was intentional.
Why?
Because they spent such a lengthy period of time together in very, very close and confined quarters. People, no matter how good of a relationship they have, that doesn't work out so well, even amongst people that know themselves real good. It appears that she was maybe agitated him, and in the videos that I've seen, he actually kind of remained calm. I believe if in fact there was something that happened to her, that it was a rage move. When a man wants to control a woman, he's going to hit her or he's going to choke her. And a rage move would be to choke someone.
Yeah.
Or lock her out of the car. Hello, what a power play. Everybody think back, August 12th, Moab. Remember Moonflower Co-op? Remember that? She was manic. I looked at her. She didn't look manic to me. She was upset because she got locked out of her car with all of her stuff in there. Power play on his part. She was trying to crawl in the window. I don't know that she did anything to get him upset. If I were her, I'd be upset. Why is this her fault? Well, he was all calm and smiling and chatting up the cops. She's crying. Can't quit crying.
Well, I've picked up a pattern about that I want to talk about. And coming up, a TikTok user says she picked up Brian Laundrie when he was hitchhiking in Wyoming. She claims he was all alone, but acting very strangely. Could Gabby have already been dead during this alleged encounter? That's next. Now, Gabby's close friend made some extremely troubling allegations.
It seemed like there was more and more arguments.
Do you remember any one particular incident?
Yeah.
If she's hurt or worse, I hope they get what's coming. And that includes his folks. Because I'll tell you, right now they are just as complicit in my book. I'm sorry. I understand protecting your kid and all that other stuff. But right now, in my opinion, you're a coward.
19 days pass from when Gabby Petito was reported missing to when investigators discovered her body. That entire time, her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, refused to speak to her parents or law enforcement about what may have happened to her. Now, that doesn't mean he did anything wrong, but it does stand to reason that he had information no one else had. Gabby's father said because of Brian's silence, he had no idea to where even begin looking for his missing daughter. Watch this, and then I'm going to have criminal defense attorney Mark Eiglarsh, who also joins us now, weigh in.
We called Brian, we called the mom, we called the dad, we called the sister, we called every number we could find. And we got no phone calls were picked up, no text messages were returned.
So mom, dad, sister, Brian, nobody took your calls?
No one. I just print out a map, draw a circle, and fill it into an airplane and throw it in the front yard. I don't care. You don't have to say a thing. Just tell me where to start. We'll start.
Well, criminal defense attorney Mark Eiglarsh joins us now. And look, it's real easy to jump to conclusions because his behavior's not helping him.
No. Well, his behavior is not helping us, yes, but it's helping him. His behavior is selfish, it's self-centered, and it's designed exclusively to protect him. He's doing what our Constitution allows him to do. And I see her rolling her eyes, but with utmost respect and love for my dear friend Nancy Grace, I do want to challenge her with one thing. She made it seem that law enforcement were not doing their job by grabbing him when they did see him and bringing him into a station. Nancy, let me finish for the first time ever. The truth of the matter is, the reason why law enforcement did not do that, which we all would have liked, the court of public opinion would have liked that, they didn't do it because we don't live in a third world country. They weren't allowed to do it. The Constitution protected him. He told through his lawyers that I'm not speaking with you.
They didn't have cause to arrest him, but they certainly had the ability and the common sense to keep an eye on him so he didn't just disappear.
Different story.
Exactly.
You're right. Why they didn't, I don't know.
Okay, now Gabby's close friend, Rose Davis, did an exclusive interview with DailyMail.com where she made some extremely troubling allegations. She claimed Brian had a history of being jealous and controlling. Let's hear what she said.
On the outside, he's very charismatic, so it seems very loving, and of course, like any relationship, there was arguments, and she'd come stay at my house when there was arguments just to like get away.
Do you remember any one particular incident?
Yeah, well, we were supposed to go line dancing, and her drive is about 30 minutes to me, and halfway there, she realized her ID was missing. And so it caused a really big argument because Brian just didn't want her to go out. And it was a jealousy issue. And it caused a huge argument between them. And she came over and cried. I do believe that their relationship, as they kept going on, was getting a little, problematic. I mean, just seemed like there was more and more arguments, and everything she did, I feel like, he thought was wrong. And even as she said in the body cam, he didn't even support her with her blog.
So I've been building my website. So I've been really stressed, and he doesn't really believe that I could do any of it.
That in itself, made me feel like it just continued to get worse.
I want to say I looked at some of that footage with Joe Petito when I interviewed him right before the body was found, and he actually said that he hadn't looked at some of the body cam footage because he said, I just can't watch my daughter crying, certainly on the side of the road. So it was painful for him to look at, but he agreed to look at it with me. And in the police report filed, the officer stated, quote, "The male tried to create distance by telling Gabby to go take a walk to calm down. She didn't want to be separated from the male and began slapping him." And the whole idea was what Nancy had mentioned earlier, like she didn't want to be left on the side of the road. She didn't want to be excluded from the van. And I looked at this whole pattern, and I found 7 examples of why she may have reason to be concerned about being left. He left the engagement, which broke up right before they went on this grand tour of the United States. The engagement broke up. He left her out of the van and wouldn't let her in. He left her alone to stay in the van at night when he went to a motel when the cops separated them. He left her alone when he flew home to deal with storage buildings for 5 days. He left her when he came home without her to begin with. He left her family hanging, worrying, wondering what happened. He left his home and went missing. This guy tends to leave.
If this ever goes to court, Phil, I watched an hour and 17 minutes of that body cam footage.
As did I.
And I believe I let the jury see that entire hour of 17 minutes because he comes across charming, controlling. This guy comes across smooth.
Well, he does part of the way, and then things begin to take a little bit of a different turn. Coming up, this was one of the very last videos taken of Gabby alive. What clues could be hidden in this tape? You may notice him wringing his hands and rocking.
He's wringing his hands, and his elbows are against his chest. He's not just under stress, he's afraid.
You want to tell me about hitting that curb?
Hitting the curb was her grabbing the wheel.
She grabbed the wheel?
Yeah. She said, I can't believe you're getting pulled over, and then she did.
What about the speed? Did she take over the road?
No, I saw the pedal on you. If I was going fast, I'm sorry. No, it's probably just the moment of, I'm still shaking now. The adrenaline, seeing the lights flashing up, and then her gripping the wheel. So if I sped up, I'm sorry about that. Or if I was speeding beforehand, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it took quite a bit to catch up to you. So,
yeah, I'm sorry about that.
On August 12th, Moab City Police Department responded to a call about a possible domestic violence situation between Gabby and her fiance, Brian. Now, I want to introduce body language expert and analyst Scott Rouse. Now, he is an author and holds multiple certificates in advanced interrogation training and has been trained alongside the FBI, Secret Service, U.S. Military Intelligence, and Department of Defense. He's the guy. He's also a member of the Behavior Panel, 4 of the world's top body language and behavior experts who analyze body language and human behavior in videos of public interest. Scott, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You looked at this, and we can look at some of the video, but overall, how would you characterize Brian's conduct in the early interactions with law enforcement?
In the first part, and especially in the first video, we're looking at everything you would see in a normal traffic stop that's a non-felony traffic stop. He's going to be talking quickly. He's going to be very apologetic. He's going to be saying, I'm sorry a lot. These are all normal behaviors.
Well, let's take a look at Brian's body language as he is questioned outside the van. And you may notice him wringing his hands and rocking. So let's take a look at this video.
All right.
Tell me what's going on.
She just gets worked up sometimes, and I try and really distance myself from her. So, like, I lock the car and I walk away from her. What happened this morning is that she's trying to start up like her own little website blog and everything. So I give her time. And we really had a nice morning, if anything, but she just got worked up because we were trying to get going and get our day going because we want to go like arches before this stuff every time.
Okay. What about the speed? Did she take over the road?
No, I'm sorry.
The pedal on you?
If I was going fast, I'm sorry. No, it's probably just the moment of, I'm still shaking now. The adrenaline, seeing the lights flashing up, and then her gripping the wheel. So if I sped up, I'm sorry about that. Or if I was speeding beforehand, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it took quite a bit to catch up to you. So, yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay, now tell me what you're seeing here. You're saying his hand movements, there's fluidity, he's being open and...
He's being fairly open. The illustrators are the way your brain emphasizes specific words or phrases, like I did just then, specific words or phrases. His are all on the money. They're all happening when they should. If they were to happen when they should, like that, then something's up. He's just nervous at this point, in this part of it. Because everything, it seems, it's quick and fast, and he's breathing heavily because he's nervous. His fight or flight is engaged. Everything is as it should be for this situation.
Okay, now you say things take a change. When we come back, we are going to take a closer look at Brian's behavior in front of the police. It was very telling, and not in the way you might think. You say things take a change.
Right here, this is called the fig leaf. He hasn't done this up to this point.
Police released an hour-long body cam video that shows Gabby and Brian being pulled over and questioned by officers in Moab, Utah. Let's approach the screen here and let's look at this fourth one.
All right.
Let's just start playing this and then we can stop it when we need to.
What was the disagreement about?
Right here.
Okay, what do we
This is the first time we've seen this up to this point. This is called the fig leaf, where you guard the groin area. People do that when they're insecure, when they're not sure what's going on, they're afraid, they're nervous. The first time doing something, being on TV or something, you'll see them, it'll go down here like this. He hasn't done this up to this point. They've gotten close to there. And at the same time, we see what we call adapters. He's wringing his hands. Now, when you wring your hands like that, it's one thing, earlier he was just touching his hands. Now he's starting to wring them. When you do this, it's called an adapter. It's a pacifying behavior. So he's getting rid of that built up stress or tension from the situation.
Okay, now he's separated from her right now.
Right.
She's back in the car
Right.
where they've put her. And, you know, I noticed early when they were talking to him, I never heard him say, look, guys, this was no big deal. Come on. We were just kind of fussing for a minute. We're fine. We're good. I have no problem. He never says, look, we're good. We're fine.
Right.
He lets this roll on because they're ramping up on her. That bothered me. Did that bother you, that he wasn't coming to her defense?
Yes, it's perception management. He's trying to make the whole thing seem not as, when he talks about her pushing him, she talks about him, she hit him with the phone, but he says the phone got him. He doesn't say she hit me at any time. He talks about how he shoved her. He's separating himself from this, no telling what he thought may happen if they both got in trouble, because if he says, she's hitting me, this is bad, not any good, then you've got a problem there. They're going to haul her off at that point.
Well, he's sure not coming to her defense, but let's see.
It was just that I'm 30 and I can't change.
This is him.
I got 30 teeth. I got Santa Monica.
This is him wringing his hands here.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. He's holding down near the groin. And these illustrators we saw up here earlier that was so big are now down here and they're really tight. And his elbows are against his chest. These are the things that let you know, they indicate that he's not just under stress, he's afraid at this point. See, his elbows are close like this, more of this, those short little shoulder pops. All this tells you he's being guarded. He's talking about the problems they had at this point. The problem she had with him, he was dirty. He was bringing sand into the van, those types of things. And as he talks about the things she doesn't like and the problems with their relationship, that's when things start close. That's when he starts closing down. We see completely different body language here.
Because before he was much more open,
looking around. His cadence in his voice has slowed down a lot. Before it was a little bit quicker. His voice is lower.
Okay, now here he is at the end. He's back now down here again.
Yes, we have not seen that up to this point.
Okay, and what's that tell you?
That he's afraid of what's going to happen. He's trying to guard what he's talking about. He's talking about their anger. He's controlling his anger at this point. These are all little cues and tells that let you know he's controlling things, not just what he thinks she might be, but he's controlling his anger. He's controlling himself. And that's what we see when he's doing this, his arms close, because he's afraid he's going to go a little bit further and start talking.
Okay, and we saw that, when you go back, we saw that right here. And then we saw it back here.
Yes.
And then we saw it back here.
Yes.
In the beginning. So he hits that 1, 2, 3, 4 times throughout here.
Right. Every time you see him talking about their problems, that's when he starts closing down. Being a controlling person is what I've grabbed from that.
Okay. All right. Coming up, a witness comes forward. Could a sighting of Gabby's van hold the key to her final moments? And what about the couple who picked up Brian hitchhiking without Gabby? That's next.
On August 27th, we got camera footage going through the Grand Tetons Park.
This is at the Spread Creek dispersed camping area.
And we came across a white van that had Florida plates.
The van looked like it was pretty much kind of abandoned. We're approaching it up here on the left-hand side. This is most definitely Gabby Petito's Ford Transit van, but here it is on the left.
And I slowed it down so you can possibly see it a little bit better.
Well, Gabby Petito's body was discovered on Sunday in Teton County, Wyoming. Police previously identified her fiancé and high school sweetheart, Brian Laundrie, as a person of interest in her disappearance. As this case swept across social media, one young woman named Miranda Baker posted on her TikTok that she and her boyfriend actually picked up Brian on August 29th when he was hitchhiking in Wyoming alone.
On August 29th, my boyfriend and I picked up Brian at Grand Teton National Park. He offered to pay us like $200 to give him a ride, like 10 miles. He did say he had a fiance and that she was back at their van. He then told us he's been camping for multiple days without his fiance. He didn't look dirty. He didn't smell dirty. Then he freaked out. He's like, nope, I need to get out right now. So we pulled over, and then he's like, okay, I'm just gonna go find someone else to, hitchhike.
Nancy, what do you make of that? He's picked up. He offers him $200 to go 10 miles. Then he wants to get out. He says he's been camping numerous days, but he's clean. They say he looks like he's showered. What's he camping with, and why is he not with his fiance?
Everything that Brian Laundrie told the TikTok girl, as I call her, Miranda Baker, is a lie. I believe her. I'll tell you why I believe her. I have put, I don't even know how many thousands of witnesses on the stand over many, many years. Her story was rich in detail. She had her dates down, her times down. She looked right in the camera. She didn't have to think about, what am I going to say next? No deviation, rapid blinking of the eye. I mean, your language, your nonverbal expert could see all that, I'm sure, plus so much more. She's telling the truth. Now, why is he out on a tarp on the Snake River and he's smelling sweet in that car? Because he's been somewhere else. I think at that point, Gabby's already dead.
What do you make of this?
Certainly, I believe her wholeheartedly as well. Why he left? Who knows? Was he fleeing? Was he going to try and get rid of some evidentiary material? There was obviously a reason. Or had he gone somewhere and now he was trying to get to another destination?
Yeah. Did you believe the TikToker as you looked at her? She seemed to me to be very authentic.
As she speaks, she's doing what's called loping. As she talks, it's just loping right along, not stopping, thinking. And like Nancy was saying, she just, not only does she look that way because she is that way, she's showing you all the cues that say yes. She's telling a real story there.
Now, I've got a question for Mark that I think is a legitimate but difficult question that I want to ask right after the break. And we want to talk about why police are defending their approach on how they handled Brian Laundrie. But I'm really interested in what Mark has to say about what I want to ask him when we come back. Closed captioning provided by Mark. Is a highly experienced defense lawyer. You mentioned before that he certainly has a right to not speak, and certainly is probably an argument can be made that it's in his best interest. But having spent a lot of my career on the defense side of the docket, I think about what's going to ultimately play out in front of a jury.
Correct.
And if, in fact, something bad has taken place that he's involved in, can he not buy an awful lot of goodwill if he does the humane thing, if he's transparent here? Again, we don't know that he did anything wrong. He hasn't even been charged. But wouldn't he curry an awful lot of favor if he stepped up and did the right thing?
Yes, which is what I tell my clients. If he's got something to say. And that's why I do not believe that anything that could flow from his lips at this moment or before he went missing could have assisted him. Understand his failure to say anything to law enforcement or to the world can never be used against him in a court of law. It's right there in the Fifth Amendment. So there's no downside in saying nothing. And his lawyers, again, assuming they're doing their job, will say, keep quiet, the fish who kept his mouth shut never got caught. Keep your mouth shut, you murdering guy, and then we'll see what the evidence is.
Yeah.
I left out that murdering part. I wouldn't say that to him. Yeah.
Well, Gabby's father, Joe, tweeted this image and caption as a tribute to his beautiful daughter, Gabby. It says, Gabby Petito, she touched the world. I would like to thank my guests today, Nancy Grace, Steve Cardian, Mark Eiglarsh, Scott Rouse. We are praying for Gabby's family. Please know that we are continuing to work and support them every step of the way. For more information about today's episode, log on to drphil.com. We'll be discussing this on all the social media platforms because I know so many of you have questions. We'll answer everything we can in the information that we have from the family. We'll see you next time. So long. Thanks a lot.
Today on Dr. Phil.
My husband is an abusive stepfather.
You're starting to piss me off. You're gonna get your ass beat.
Brenda is crazy for saying that I'm abusive.
How about if I come in there and spank you?
Strange step parent.
I think that if he quit back talking, there wouldn't be any problems.
So this is his fault.
Or just a big bully.
My daughter's diagnosed with mental retardation.
Have you called her retarded?
Looks like that you guys are going to try to drill me.
You wanna know what I think?
I think I'm about done with this show.
Contusions, abrasions, and lacerations. Black eyes, broken bones, and bloody lips. Add to that being degraded, ridiculed, and verbally abused on a daily basis. It's abuse that no one should ever have to suffer, much less a child. Too young, too small, and too innocent to stand up for themselves. Now, oftentimes, these abusers aren't some stranger. They're the man or woman who's been welcomed into the child's home and family with open arms. What I'm talking about are step-parents. Now, let me be very clear. There are loving and caring step-parents out there that embrace these children and enrich their lives in ways that you just cannot imagine. But the rate of abuse among step-parents is higher than among biological parents. And sadly, that abuse can lead to a tragic and heart-wrenching ending. Take a look.
A twisted case of family betrayal and murder.
Gowker confessed to the brutal beating death of his own stepson, Trace Wicker. In May 2011, students found the 14-year-old's body behind Liberty High School.
Family members are shedding new light on the murder of a 9-year-old girl in Long Beach.
9-year-old Xiomara Gonzalez Fernandez was murdered in this church parking lot, allegedly at the hands of her stepfather.
Not so fast, stepmommy. You say the little girl dies of a seizure? Our investigation reveals blunt force trauma to the baby's head. Trauma so severe, her head leaves an imprint in the living room carpet. Yeah, I'm on to you, Mommy.
Now, horrific stories like these are my first guest Brenda's worst nightmare. Why? Because she claims that her husband, Drew, is such an abusive stepfather that even their cable guy, who just stopped by for a service call, reported him to CPS.
I don't care if you're filming this crap or not. I'm not going to put up with this. You're starting to me off because you're not listening and back talking.
My husband is an abusive stepfather. He is verbally, mentally, and physically abusive toward my son.
Brenda is crazy for saying that I'm abusive. I try to keep Austin in line.
You're going to go out there and rake up the backyard. And if you don't, I'm going to get a paddle and I'm going to beat your ass.
Austin deserves to get punished because he's lazy.
Austin is bipolar and he has ADHD.
Shut your mouth over there. Nobody wants to hear your smart mouth.
Austin is a bad seed.
Drew has slapped Austin upside his head. He threw him up against the wall and he choked him.
You're going to start yelling at me? How about if I come in there and spank you? I'm not going to tolerate your mouth.
Austin told me that he was going to be big enough and bad enough to beat me up. I told him I'll take his ass outside, we can go in the backyard and we can fight.
Little boy, you've got to grow up and learn. What are you going to do about it, huh? You're going to sit there and yell at me like a fool?
Austin is not too young for me to beat his ass.
Stop being a disrespectful little brat. Keep it up and I'm going to smack the out of you.
Drew has called Austin many names. Little idiot.
Little and a jerk. He thrives on getting me frustrated.
I'm at the end of the rope with the way he treats my kids.
I wish that we could fix Austin's brain to where we would get rid of the problems and my life would be a whole lot better.
I'm the king of this house. That's the way it goes.
Well, if that wasn't bad enough, Brenda says Drew has called her intellectually disabled daughter retarded and stupid. Now, Drew says he's just trying to get her ready for the real world.
My daughter Destiny was diagnosed with mild to moderate mental retardation. Drew's been verbally, mentally, physically abusive to Destiny.
What are you so happy for? What do you mean you don't know?
Drew expects Destiny to be like a normal kid.
Destiny's more intelligent than she plays off to be. She acts like she's the victim.
What is your deal for being a weirdo?
Destiny couldn't spell the word yet, and Drew told her, what? Are you stupid?
Destiny will keep asking me, how are you, Dad? I will tell Destiny, that's enough. You've asked me that 10 times already, Destiny. It gets annoying. I tell her she needs to get off her butt and go do her chores, quit being lazy.
One day, she walked by the coffee table, and there was Drew's cup. She knocked it over, and he slapped her, and it was loud and hard. It's heartbreaking that she has to go through that.
Okay, you're concerned.
Yes.
What is your concern?
Well, my main concern is that my kids be treated with dignity and respect as people, and that things don't get out of hand and get worse.
And how long have you two been together?
9 years.
9 years.
We've been married for 8.
So this has been going on for a long time.
It's since my son's been older, getting older and getting into his teenage years. He's getting a lot more mouthier, and my husband doesn't tolerate it at all.
And what do you think about all of this?
I think that if he decided to listen and quit back talking and being disrespectful, there wouldn't be any problems.
So this is his fault because he doesn't listen, he doesn't do what you tell him to do.
I think a lot of it has to do with him, and some of it might have to do with myself, but mainly it's his attitude not wanting to listen. He does not like to listen at all when it comes to me telling him what to do.
And how about your stepdaughter? What is it about her that frustrates you? What does she need to do to fix this problem? Because you're saying if they just do the right thing, there wouldn't be any problem, right?
She's not the problem. Okay, let's understand that right now. She is not a problem.
Well, let's understand this right now. Why do you yell at her?
Because she knows better and does things that she's not supposed to, and does things over and over, or asks you something over and over, and you can tell her that you've already asked me that, and it just kind of gets annoying, and she knows. She plays like she's the...
But how many times have you been told she does have short-term memory loss, and she needs that repetitive direction over and over? Okay?
Yes.
She needs that.
I understand that, and I understand what disability she has.
But you still do the same things over and over.
It's kind of frustrating with one and the other. It's mainly the other, which would be Austin. He's the most frustrating one out of all of it.
And how do you deal with that?
I try to deal with it as best as I can until he likes to sit there and pick at me and pushes the buttons to where it annoys me, and he thinks it's funny.
Yeah. Well, that's where he and I separate then, because I don't think it's funny at all.
I don't either, sir.
Well, I think you do. I mean, I watched the tape. What was the first statement you said on tape? I don't give a damn if you are taping this. Let me tell you something. And then you go on to aggressively berate and demean this child. What's your theory? What's the outcome you're looking for when you do that?
My theory is if he would have said, for instance, I'm tired, can I do the raking of the yard later? That might have been just fine. He straight out told me no, that he wasn't going to do it and that he's not going to listen to me.
And you said that he is, quote, he's just a bad seed. What does that mean? He's just a bad seed.
He's got a impulse problem with his brain. His brain completely does not know when to shut off the adrenaline. He gets adrenaline rushes. So he turns into a hyperactive, Incredible Hulk in less than 3 seconds.
So it's involuntary.
It's not actually his fault that it happens, but it does happen quite often.
Well, then if it's not his fault and you understand that, why do you yell and berate him?
Actually, that's a good question to answer, and it's a hard one.
Well, here's what you said. You said, I'm trying to turn him into a man.
I'm trying to set him straight for life forward.
Have you called him names?
Yes, I have.
Little jerk, bitch, little bastard, little idiot and stupid. I
Okay.
apologize, ladies, for the
Different
language,
points in
but I
time.
want you to understand what we're dealing with here. You have called him all of those things, said all of those things to him, have you not?
Sometime in life, yes, I have.
Sometime in life.
Am I proud of it? No, I'm not.
Do you threaten him?
Define threatening him.
Okay, I will. Quote, you better shut the up or I'll knock your teeth out. Get the out of my face. Don't care if you're leave. This isn't your house anyway. I'm just going to punch a hole in your chest.
You have said that before many times. Different.
Saying one thing and doing another is totally, completely different.
I didn't ask you if you did it. I'll get to that in a minute. I'm just asking
we'll
you if
get
you
to
said
that.
it. I'm just trying to get it all on the table here so I know what I'm dealing with.
You're dealing with a kid that likes to push everybody's button to the max.
Okay, well,
and thinks it's funny.
first answer my question. You do say that to him.
I have said it to him before.
More than once.
It's possible.
Yes, he
Come
has
on.
more than once.
You know, man up and own it. Hell, if you're going to do it, don't come out here and start waffling around. You either do it or you don't.
I have more than once. Man up. I'm more than a man than just as anybody else is.
Really?
Really.
And you think you're going to teach him to be a man by doing what you're doing. You want him to grow up and be a man like you.
No, I'm trying to show him the straight way and not get into trouble. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
But you can't do that whenever you cuss at him and to call him names and make him have
When
low
he's not
self-esteem.
when he's not throwing a fit and he's acting normal and listening and behaving, he's the greatest kid in the world to be around and love him to death and step in front of a truck so he wouldn't get hurt. But when it comes to his mouth and his attitude, it really is stinking.
Did you say, if he wants to fight, I'm ready? He's not too young for me to beat his ass. He will not disrespect me. I will not bow down to him.
When a 14-year-old stands up to you and gets in your face like a man and says that he can whoop you, what do you expect a person to do?
I'm so glad you asked. Do you know how it sounds that you're physically hitting an intellectually disabled girl?
I think I'm about done with this show.
Have you threatened his bio father?
Have I threatened him?
Yeah.
Yeah, he threatened me first.
Have you said to him, go tell your dad I'll whoop his ass?
I sure have. And on that point there, to answer another part of that question, I have asked his biological father for help over the telephone to help me get this child to listen.
Well, so this is your strategy to get him to listen, to learn to be a man. Did you make a paddle?
I made 2 of them.
And you wrote red ass on it?
His mother
Red
did
butt.
that.
Did you hit him with it?
I spanked him on his butt.
In fact, you told us, quote, I haven't used it in 6 months because he throws a fit like a little baby.
He does throw a fit like a little baby.
Did you grab him and throw him up against the wall in front of a family counselor?
In front of 2 family counselors.
Yes, I have. I grabbed him by his shirt and put him up against the wall and told him to stop acting the way he was.
And he's screaming, you're choking me.
Yes, he was screaming that Drew was choking him, and I was in an area where I couldn't see, and I went over there and I didn't see him choking him. He had a hold of his shirt up against the doors, and the counselor
I did not
had
choke
to tell
the
him
child.
to stop, and I had to tell him to stop.
I did grab him and put him up against the wall.
And what was your theory when you did that? What went through your mind when you did that?
Hopefully, I was trying to put some fear in him to make him calm down.
Well, it didn't.
And that's what all this is. You're trying to get him under control. You're calling him names and yelling at him. You're going to beat his ass. You're throwing him against the wall. How's that working for you?
Calling him names really isn't the greatest thing in the world that I've ever done. Not too proud of it. It's not the greatest thing that you should do to any child. But when you're pushed past your point and you're losing control, you kind of say things that you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you need to learn to control your temper in your mouth.
You get really frustrated with your stepdaughter as well.
Sometimes she'll ask the questions over and over, and I'll tell her that's enough. She's asked enough. It's the same thing over and over, and I know that she forgets, but after about 10 to 15 times, you kind of say, okay, you've already asked me that.
Well, but that's not what you say. You say, stop asking me dumb questions. You're lazy. You think she's smarter than she leads people to believe, right?
Oh, she is smarter than she leads people to believe.
She likes playing the victim.
She likes playing like she's helpless.
Have you called her stupid and retarded?
I've called her stupid and retarded a couple of times.
Have you said you're acting retarded? Stop asking so many stupid questions. You can't even spell the word yet. What's wrong with you?
I don't think I've ever said that to her.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Well, she would disagree. Were you there?
It was just the other day. We were in our room and Destiny said, "How do you spell yet?" And you go, "You can't even spell yet? What is wrong with you?"
I honestly don't remember that, to be truthful, but if you say so.
It was kind of mean.
You don't like me asking you these questions, do you?
I feel like that I have to be on the defensive side. So you can ask away and I'll answer as best as I can.
How does he treat you?
When we're alone, he generally treats me really good. We have a good relationship, but whenever my son's there, or even my daughter sometimes, we're always fighting. We have to fight. I have to constantly be in between them. I feel like that all the time.
Have you gotten physically aggressive with your daughter?
No.
He has backhanded her in her arm 2 times that I know of, and 1 time was for spilling his drink at my
Is that true or not?
We were at her brother's house and my daughter wasn't paying attention and she walked by and when she doesn't pay attention, she will either trip or knock stuff over, and I smacked her in the arm and told her to pay attention and watch what she's doing.
Is this when she knocked your cup over?
Yeah, it was at somebody else's house.
So when I asked you if you've been physical with her, you said no, that wasn't the truth. You have.
That is considered physical. And yesterday at the hotel.
What happened yesterday at the hotel?
He backhanded her in the arm.
Did it leave a mark? No. Did I really hit her hard? No. What was the reason why I hit her in the arm?
What was your reasoning? Because I don't think that you should have hit her at all.
Do you know how it sounds that you're physically hitting an intellectually disabled girl? How does that sound to you when it hits your ear and you hear somebody else say it?
Apparently that I think I'm about done with this show, because it seems like I'm going to have to defend myself every time that you speak a question to me. I'm not liking the way that this is working out here.
Well, I'm asking you the questions. You said ask me anything you want. I'll answer anything you want.
I just answered you.
No, you didn't.
I don't intentionally hit her on purpose. Okay. And if I think that she deserves to get smacked in the arm for not paying attention or doing something wrong, then that's what I did.
Do you want to know what I think, or do you care?
Well, truthfully, I don't care, but I would like to hear what you got to say.
How do you feel about how Drew treats you?
He's mean to me. I'm doing the dishes, he tells me to hurry up. I was trying to stab them all. Sometimes it takes me a little time to figure out what word goes where.
What is the worst thing that Drew has done to you?
Hit me on the arm and it really hurt. I was running right by him and the drink actually spilled by accident. I didn't mean to, and he punched me in the arm. I got sad. I cried myself to sleep.
How do you want things to be different in this family?
I just want Drew to be nice to Austin and have some peace.
Cool. I'm glad she said that.
What part?
All of it.
She's a very sweet kid and wouldn't do anything to hurt anybody, and she doesn't deserve to get hit.
I will never
Or
touch
yelled
her
at.
ground again, because I don't think it's right when she acts or puts me in a position where I should discipline her. She's too old for that, and I love her to death. And I go whatever it takes at school. If I have to pick her up or take her to school, whatever it takes, I do for her. I do for my son too. I do the same thing. I went through a whole year of counseling coming to my house every week for at least an hour or two every week. I even went to parental counseling on my own because my wife said, Drew, you think you need to get some counseling? Okay, I'll do it for you, honey. I'll do it. If it makes you happy, I'll go try this. I did it on my own. So I'm the bad person here, which is what it looks like. And sometimes I might be a little too rough. I'm not perfect. I was willing to try and change that and help out because this is my family. But the way things look right now, looks like that you guys are going to try to drill me here. And I don't think that's too cool. I came out here on my own to try to help and make things better, but it seems like it's going to make things worse.
Well, let me tell you what I think. You want to know what I think, or do you care?
Well, truthfully, I don't care, but I would like to hear what you got to say. You have an opinion. I'll hear it.
If you don't care, why do you want to hear it?
Because I would like to hear what you got to say.
You came all this way, you might as well, right?
Right now, I'm a little upset, a little uptight, so I may say something that I might not mean, but sure, I would appreciate it.
I'm real thick-skinned, and I'm going to hurt my feelings. I've been called,
I probably won't.
I've been called worse than I think you could come up with.
I probably would hope so.
Here's the thing. There's a reason that I agreed to do this story, because I had two choices in this once I learned about it and once I saw the tape. I could either try to help you, or I could just refer it to law enforcement, because I believe what you're doing is criminal. And I don't think you know that. I don't think you get it. I think that you are, like everybody else in this world, you just learn what you live. And I think people do the best they can with what they've got at the time. And I think you don't realize the impact and gravity of what you're doing. And I don't think you understand the impact and gravity of what you're doing. And so I elected to have a conversation with you and tell you the truth. And I tell people the truth as I see it. I'm not the repository of all knowledge. I'm not going to ask you to substitute my judgment for your own. You may completely disagree with me, and then you can go off and do whatever you want. But I think that you deserve for somebody to tell you the truth. Because I think if you will hear me, I think 6 months from now or a year from now, you will look back and say, thank God somebody stepped up and gave me a wake-up call. Because I am not proud of what I was doing, and I can now be proud of what I am doing. And that's my goal for you, is to tell you the truth. And I don't care whether you like it or you don't like it. What I do care is that I believe you need to hear something from other people's point of view. My point of view, her point of view, your son's point of view, your daughter's point of view. Because I think if you will do that and you have a willingness, you can do something different than what you're doing here. So that's my goal. I wanted to find out what you were doing and what you weren't doing. You've been honest. I'll give you that.
I'll be more than honest. I'll tell you anything that you really want to hear. I don't need to lie. If I don't actually remember, then I'll tell you I don't actually remember. If I do remember, I'll tell you. Telling the truth is the only way to do it.
So what happened when you screwed up when you were a kid?
My mother would spank me if I was bad. I didn't get into trouble too much when I was young.
Yeah, how about your father?
Oh, I got spanked by my father. They were not together all my whole life.
Right.
So, yeah, I even took spankings for my so-called half-brother.
So who'd you live with?
I lived with my mother.
So when was your dad gone from your life?
About 6 weeks after I was born.
Yeah. So who taught you how to be a father? Who taught you what was right and what was wrong, where the boundaries were, what was okay, what was not?
My mother did her best on teaching me and being around her friends, but at least
But you didn't have a role model?
Not exactly, no.
A father that taught you how to deal with things?
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
he's in my life now, but back then, no.
Mm-hmm. What are you so angry about? What else do you do when a 14-year-old gets up in your face disrespectfully? What am I supposed to do? Kowtow? That's not the only other alternative.
Explain to me what you think the other alternative is, so I could be enlightened.
What the hell you doing on my property? That book of hers suggests some missing men might be buried on this land.
I'm sorry, let's make it right.
This is your life. You did not come this far for nothing, so we're gonna get through it.
What are you so angry about?
Can you define what I'm so angry about?
You just seem to have, look, I spend at least half my time hearing what isn't said.
Right.
And you seem to me to have a seething anger just below the surface. I think it's all you can do right now, since you've been out here, to not rage. And even as you sit there now, I just sense an anger in you, a rage in you just beneath the surface. I mean, you're doing your best right now. I mean, you're sitting there and it's like, okay, I'm gonna keep it together here. And I understand your anger at me. I get it if right now you're thinking, I'd like to drag him out in Oklahoma field and whoop his ass. Well, let me tell you, I lived in Oklahoma. I know where those fields are, and I've been in a few of them. I get how that solves nothing. What I want to know is not what you're angry at me about, what you're angry about in general.
Angry in general. I have a lot of stress that is put upon me. That could be a good part of being angry. I have a job that I work at that I'm not too happy with, but it's paying the bills, and if I could find something else, then I would, and change, and it would probably be a lot better.
But he also has a problem with authority.
Yeah, I get that. That's why he wants to slap me.
Can I say something to you, to be honest with you?
Sure.
I knew what I was coming out here to get into. I volunteered for this, and if I thought I was just going to come out here and want to slap you, I would have never volunteered. I came out here to try to figure out what the problem is and try to get help to fix the problem.
But you can't change what you don't acknowledge, and it is apparent to me that we have a different definition of acceptability when it comes to parenting and how you express yourself. You do what you think is okay. You do what you think you are justified to do. You think because this 14-year-old has the audacity to defy you, to push your buttons, to be in your face, that gives you the right to say, I'm the king of this house and I will take you out and whoop your ass. If you want to get up in my face like a man, then I will whoop you like a man. That's just your level of reasoning. I get that. I understand that you think that's right. And I don't think that's right, and I have to convince you of a better way to do it, or you'll never stop doing it. But you can't change what you don't acknowledge. That's why I asked you, did you say this? Did you do that? Did you say this? And you said, yeah. Well, yes. Like, so? I mean, your whole attitude to me seems to be like, yeah, so what else do you do when a 14-year-old gets up in your face disrespectfully? What am I supposed to do? Kowtow and kiss his ass and say, oh, well, okay, I just want to get along? That's not the only other alternative.
What is the other alternative? Explain to me what you think the other alternative is, so I could be enlightened.
I will certainly do that.
Well,
I'm so glad you asked.
I asked you. Let's be real. I'm going to ask you. I came here for help, so be it. Explain, please.
Okay. I think you're only half being sarcastic. I think you really are curious.
If I was going to be sarcastic, Dr. Phil, I would have came up with something better than that. I'm wanting to know.
Well, I said half sarcastic. All right, we're going to take a break, and then I am going to answer his question in detail. And you're sitting there like, great, get him fixed. Boy, have I got some questions for you, lady. We'll be right back.
Austin was 11. The cable guy came to our house, and Drew told him, "Just a minute, I'm gonna go my son up." The cable guy called Child Protective Services. It came back inconclusive. Drew might have said something, but he didn't follow through with it, which I'm glad.
Austin always makes me look like I'm the bad guy. I don't deserve it.
How well do you really know the person that you invite into your home and into your children's lives? It's a question more single parents need to ask themselves, because last year alone, child advocacy centers reportedly assisted nearly 86,000 children who were abused by their step-parents. We conducted a survey and asked parents if they disliked their stepchildren. Now, that's a provocative question. You think, who would ask somebody that? Well, we asked somebody that. 36% said yes. 36% said, you know, if I'm just anonymous here and don't put my name on this, yeah, I don't like my stepkids. Now, Brenda believes that her husband, Drew, must not like her children because of how abusive he is. He says, that's not true. I love these kids to death. But she says his anger escalates when she steps in and defends them.
I've about had enough of your mouth. Keep it up and I'm going to spank your ass.
Austin puts a big strain on my relationship with my wife. She always thinks that I'm being the bad guy or too mean.
I'm getting a little sick and tired of your crap. Running your mouth. Basically, you're going to do what you're told or you're going to get your ass beat.
I'm always in the middle when I have to get in Drew's face because he's trying to pick on my son. I say, pick on somebody your own size. I'll say, off. Stop threatening all the time.
I'm done with this. I'm done with it. I really don't care. You can take your little film and stick it where the sun don't shine, because I'm tired of his little stupid mouth that's disrespectful.
I don't think Drew is in control of his actions or his mouth. I think he needs medication.
I'm gonna put up with this crap. Been doing this for going on 9 years and I'm not gonna do it any longer.
When Drew doesn't want to listen to me, he'll wave his hand and say, "Oh, I'm leaving."
Something's gonna have to give, or that's it, Brenda. I'm done. I'm serious. I'm not playing. I'm sick of this. I'm not gonna be the one that's always trying to look like I'm the bad guy because I'm trying to make his ass mine. Disrespectful little brat. You don't side in with me.
Can't get a word in because your mouth keeps running.
I'm done with you.
See? That's what he does. He walks away.
Okay, let me ask you, because I've learned I'm coming up on our 2000th show here. And one thing I've learned is that when people sit back and watch their life, their conduct, their behavior on tape, it sometimes is informative. What's your reaction? You just watched yourself on tape there.
That's a good question. How should I answer that? Well, when I say I'm done and I walk out, I think it's better that I walk away out of the situation to get some fresh air, to get out of the aggravation.
See, that's really an interesting answer. I find it really interesting because, and you guys, I'm sure know it's the same thing. You have no comment on your demeanor, your conduct, your name calling, the aggressive and rageful nature of what you were saying. You just say, well, yeah, I probably should walk away. That doesn't even register with you. Let me ask you this question. Let me get a little more specific. How much fun do you think you are to live with?
Couldn't tell you.
Well, think about it for a minute. Think about it. You're not you. You're her, or you're him, or you're the daughter. Any of the three. How much fun do you think they have living with you when we just watched that tape?
Well, if that was it, if that tape actually existed all the time as my life was going on every day, it wouldn't be fun at all. But that's just a little partial time. We do have
Every
fun.
other day at least, you and Austin are arguing, and I'm having to step in.
When Drew picked me up and threw me against the wall, it made me feel scared inside. When Drew threatens me, I hate him. I don't like living this way. When Drew threatens me, I hate him. I don't like living this way. When Drew picked me up and threw me against the wall, it made me feel scared inside. A lot of my friends don't want to come over because they're scared of Drew. He called one of my friends a mental-looking beaver bulldog mixed. I said, "Why did you do it?" He said, "He's a mental hairy-looking gorilla." I was like, wow. Drew gets annoyed with Destiny because she kind of has a problem, but she's my sister and I will protect her no matter what. He said to her, "Why are you acting retarded?" I stuck up for my sister and said, "You don't talk to my sister like that." Drew always tells me whenever he fights with my mom, it's always because of me. It's hard to see my mom be sad. It makes me feel inside like I'm gonna cry, and I don't like that. He said if it wasn't for me, there would be no problems. It hurts my feelings a lot, actually, to him say that. I wish that we can get along and be happy together.
What's your thought?
My thought is he's unhappy quite a bit. Apparently they're all unhappy, and so myself, I'm unhappy too. I don't like to fight with them. I would rather not. I don't need to raise my blood pressure any higher than it already is over something crazy and stupid. But it seems like the majority of the time he's disrespectful and always standing up and telling me that he's not going to do something. And it just really irritates the hell out of me when he does that.
I get that you don't like all of his behavior. What I'm trying to get you to get is that your reaction to it, your method to it, you cannot manage the situation with intimidation and succeed. You cannot be a loudmouth, abusive bully and succeed. And I'll guarantee you that's how he sees you. I guarantee you that's how she sees you. I guarantee that's how she sees you when you are doing what you're doing. Is that what you want for yourself?
That's not what I want.
Is that what you're doing? Are you being a loudmouth, abusive bully?
Apparently, I guess I am.
No, I'm asking you. You said you would be honest. Are you?
Did I just answer your question?
No.
Yes, I just did.
Well, answer it again because I'm not very smart.
I think you're smarter than you're playing off right now, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm not even close to being finished speaking to Drew, and I haven't even gotten to speak to Brenda yet. You do not want to miss tomorrow's show. If you suspect child abuse, please call the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-4A-CHILD. That's 1-800-422-4453. And understand, help is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Don't think they're going to press you into doing something you don't want to do. You don't have to give your name. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. They will answer your questions. They will give you information. You will not be pressured to do anything. So don't be afraid. Pick up the phone. Thanks for being here. So long.